Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. As you guys can kind of see in the title, this is a little bit different of a video. Now that I'm approaching about 500 hours of DBD, I thought I'd make a tips video. This is things I think are important. Doesn't necessarily mean you guys have to agree on all of them, but hopefully you guys do learn something new. And this is more tailored for the new people coming to DBD or old players that haven't played in a long time. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. So yeah, wanted to make one thing clear. The goal here is to waste as much time as possible for the killer, and for your teammates to work on gens while you loop. And second of all, this is just things I think are important, and these aren't in any chronological order. This is just stuff I wrote down as I was thinking about stuff. So first of all, I will put the sound effect for this one, but it is Huntress actually. I just learned this one a little bit ago after a friend told me, and I was actually bamboozled that I didn't know this. So first of all, most importantly, it is when you're facing Huntress, when she winds up her hatchet, you'll hear like a little chime. I don't know how to describe it. I'll put the sound effect in so you guys can hear it. But yes, so when you hear that little noise, and you can hear it across the map even if you're not being chased, when she's fully locked into a teammate or whatever, you'll be able to hear it as well. So that means she's going to be able to throw the hatchet at full power and full speed. If you don't hear that sound effect, she won't be able to throw it as far, and there's not going to be as much hatchet velocity, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Shut the fuck up.
Tip number 2 is going to be distance is your best friend, especially if you're new. You don't feel 100% comfortable looping. I think leaving early is a good tip. Let's say you're in the corner or middle, doesn't really matter if you have spine chill, but regardless, if you start hearing that killer coming, you don't have to wait for him to come and hit you. If you see him coming your direction, I think it's totally fine for you to get up and leave early and allow him to chase you by wasting that, roughly 5 to 20 seconds for him to catch up to you, depending on the direction you take and the looping. So, if you're a new player, it's totally okay to leave extra early if need be.
I know, but
Especially if you're healthy, take that extra few seconds and just leave early. It's okay. A teammate will jump on the gen. It'll get done. It's not that big of a deal. So yeah, I think that's a really good tip number 2. Tip number 3, learn how to use your perks and being comfortable with them. Dead Hard is probably the most used perk, maybe Sprint Burst, whatever it is. Use Dead Hard to avoid hits. Granted that a lot of people in the community, which is fine, play however you want to play, people use Dead Hard for distance, and so do I. I'm a culprit of it. If I'm not close enough to a pallet, I will Dead Hard, pull down pallet, and avoid going down. So I think that's a really good tip number 2. Tip number 3. Tip number 4 is don't throw the pallet right away. I was a victim of this for the first 300 hours, and that just comes with being comfortable with looping. But it is, don't throw the pallet right away. Feel free to try exhausting that loop by looping that same place 1 or 2 or 3 times. Don't just drop pallet right away, because if you drop 4, 5, 6 pallets in one chase, there goes a quarter of your resources for your other teammates when they need to loop, because you're just throwing down pallets. So especially if you're healthy, I think it is totally okay for you to loop until that killer starts to get bloodlust, and then you need to drop that pallet to counter the bloodlust and go into a different loop. So that's tip number 4. Tip number 5, when looping, and this kind of piggybacks with tip number 4, is when you're looping, stay pretty tight to that loop. You want to, the quicker it takes, for you to go around, the better, because the killer is going to swing a little bit wider, and additionally they have bloodlust, so they will have that additional speed. So just keep that in mind. Tip number 6, having a good exhaustion perk. Dead Hard, Sprint Burst, or even Adrenaline. Though Adrenaline, I should probably replace that with Life. Fang has that, so Adrenaline's more used for end game. You get to get healed, and you get a little Sprint Burst at the end, especially when you're getting chased. That can buy you a few seconds, so just keep that in mind. David has Dead Hard, Meg has Sprint Burst, and then Fang has Life. So tip number 8 is understanding how to loop Shack. Basically, the best way I can describe with you without getting confusing anyone is loop the other side where the pallet isn't. So if you're going into the door and the pallet isn't there, you're going the correct way. So then, you know, if killer follows you, jump window, repeat, and jump window again, and then, you know, if that bloodlust starts to activate, drop that pallet. But if you are playing with a Swift or a team, it's always a good rule of thumb to tell teammates that you've used God pallet, just indicating them that maybe it isn't safe for them to loop anymore in Killer Shack. So tip number 8 is ideally, if possible, do the gens in the middle first and then work your way out doing the gens outside. I learned this the hard way by playing with a friend of mine. He kind of instilled it into me, but don't do all the corner gens first and then focus on doing the gens in the middle. The name of the game is to waste as much as the time possible for the killer. So if the killer needs to travel from, you know, point A to the complete opposite side of the map to check that corner gen, you're buying 20, you know, whatever, 20, 25 seconds of time instead of having, you know, 3 gens right in the middle that he can just check on them and he can see if you're working on it or not. So just keep that in mind. If you're playing solo, there's obviously really not much you can do. Ideally, though, I would see if you can get the middle gens first, because that will give even more pressure for the killer having to check each corner, and that will waste a lot of time, giving you enough time to hopefully finish the other gens and for you to hopefully survive. Tip number 9, if you notice you're getting tunneled, I would consider getting DS, Decisive Strike. So that's, I wouldn't use it my first hook. I would definitely use it towards my second hook. But, you know, you do as what you think is correct. However, so basically just DS in general is once you're off the hook, you can't heal anyone, touch a generator, sabotaging, nothing like that. The only 2 things you can do, if I remember correctly, is opening a chest and opening gate, which is awesome because I've had to use it a few times when the killer comes up to me. You know, I'm gates at like 80, 85. They'll kill me, pick me up. I open the gate, dead hard out. So just basically just helps you so your games aren't so short because, you know, tunneling / slugging is kind of common, which is totally okay. So yes, tip number 10 is understanding what the perks of the killers do. So don't just click next and go on to the next match right away. Take the time to read what each hex does, what perk does, stuff like that, and understanding how you can counter it and what they do. So perfect example is Devour Hope. So they call them tokens, but they're more like hooks. So when you get 2 hooked, the killer is granted the haste effect. So it basically just allows them to run faster for the first 10 seconds of that. So hook number 3, survivors suffer permanently from the exposed effect, and then 5 is you can kill any survivor with your hand until that is cleansed. So if your Devour Hope is put in a very good place, if you get 5 hooks in total, you can kill all the survivors without having them to go to death hook. So, and then tip number 11 is don't be afraid to use your hooks, especially if your teammates are double hooked and you are maybe like 1 hooked or not hooked at all. I had actually a perfect example of this on my stream the other night, Twitch TV, Bobby FPS. I'll put the link down below. My teammate was double hooked and he was hurt getting chased by Pig. I was healed and had 0 hooks to my name. That I figured out where he was and I ran up and I took aggro. He was able to get healed by our teammates, and then I took the hit and then obviously I went down, but I was able to buy him time. I got hooked. By the time, you know, all that time got wasted, the killer, my teammates were all healthy and they were able to just get me out, and that would have been, it was a 4-man out instead of potentially me, you know, not doing anything the entire game besides, you know, doing generators, having a 3-man out. So stuff like that. Don't be afraid to use your hooks. Excuse me. It's not staying invisible to the killer. It's getting gens done and then taking pressure off teammates long as you can while you're looping. Another few things I would like to mention that are just kind of extra. 1v1. If you don't have someone to 1v1, you know, it doesn't have to be serious, but you know, when you're playing a public match, you get, you know, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, maybe a minute and a half of actually looping and learning from your mistakes, which isn't enough time. Or it'll just take you 4 times as longer to understand some of these concepts, because you don't have enough practice, because ideally you're just sitting there doing generators. So finding a partner you can do 1v1s is a great way to get better, understanding how killers work, how you should take these loops, staying tight on loops, all the stuff I just talked about you could apply, you know, finding a T-wall, an L-wall, stuff like that that you can do to help yourself buy as much as time possible for your teammates. Another good thing, since Discord is on every platform now, if you are not enjoying the game solo, the game's a whole different experience when you have 2 or 3 people that understand what they're doing. So I'm just gonna plug the Dead by Daylight Discord. There's so many people that are playing, and there's so many awesome people that are willing to help you, teach you. So just keep that in mind. This is a much longer video, so hopefully you guys did learn something new here. I am planning another video of that should come out hopefully Monday, maybe Sunday. But yeah, it's gonna be basically the video ends when I die. So we'll see how long that lasts. Hopefully I can get like 2 or 3 or 4 matches before I get killed. So yeah,